friends, so today we learn the basics of calligraphy. We learn the basic strokes which are used in calligraphy for forming the letters. So let's get started. So the first stroke is the thin stroke. What is it? It's a thin stroke. Let's write thin stroke. So first we will learn how to make a thin stroke. So thin stroke is the stroke when we are moving a line from down to up, down to up. So this, whenever we are making a letter which stroke is coming from down to up, that part always becomes thin. For example, I am making A. So when we are making A, only this part and this part will be thin. Why? Because these both parts are going from down to up. So the part of the word which goes from down to up will always remain thin. Now let's move to the another stroke, which is thick stroke. That is thick stroke. It is opposite to the thin stroke. So the thick, whenever we always apply thick stroke whenever the line is coming from up to down, up to down. For example, now again let's take letter A. So in letter A, we will make this part thick. Why? Because when we are making this part, if you notice, this part is going from up to down. This part is going from up to down, and the part of the word which goes from up to down will always be thick. So this part will become thick. Now, we'll also make this part thick. Why? We'll make that part thick because whenever we are making a this part and this part is thin because this is going from down to up, but this part will be thick because it is going from up to down. So always remember, the part of the word which is going from down to up will always be thin, and the part of the word which is going from up to down will always remain thin. I repeat कि जो भी हमारा वर्ड का जो पार्ट होता है, जो हमारा नीचे से ऊपर जाता है, वो हमेशा पतला होता है, और जौन सा भी पार्ट ऊपर से नीचे जाता है वो हमेशा मोटा होता है. जैसे अगर आप इधर भी देखोगे तो मैंने ए में सेम रूल अप्लाई करे जैसे हमने इधर करा है. So now, after thin and thick stroke, we'll learn next two more strokes. So the third stroke is undetermined stroke. That's undetermined stroke. So how do we make undetermined stroke? It's made like this. We make it like this. And always remember that this is not the right font of making underturned stroke. The right format is making it in a slanting way. Whenever you teach someone underturned stroke, you always make them like this. So now, how you will apply rule in it? So whenever we are making an underturned stroke, if you notice, when we make the first line, this is going from up to down. So this part will be thin. This part will be thin. Now this part is going from down to up. So this part will remain thin because there is a calligraphy rule कि हमारा जौन सा भी पार्ट वर्ड का नीचे से ऊपर जाता है वो हमेशा थिन रहता है और जो ऊपर से नीचे आता है वो हमेशा थिक रहता है. सो दैट्स वाई अंडरटर्न स्ट्रोक हम हमेशा ऐसा बनाते हैं. हमारा ये वाला पार्ट मोटा रहता है, ये वाला पतला रहता है, क्योंकि ये वाला पार्ट ऊपर से नीचे आ रहा होता है और ये नीचे से ऊपर जा रहा होता है. सो नाउ let me give you example of this. Okay, so suppose we make the letter Y. We make the letter Y. So in letter Y, we will make this part thick because this is going from up to down. And also we will make this part thick. Why? Because when you are making this part, afterwards you are making a line which is going from up to down. So that's why you will make this part thick, and also this part, because even this part is going from up to down. So the Y and U both are examples of undetermined stroke. So now let's move to the another stroke, which is overturned stroke. So how do we make overturned stroke? So when you see that in thin stroke, the opposite of thin stroke was thick stroke. Same, the opposite of underturned stroke is overturned stroke. How do we make overturned stroke? Like this. No, we don't make it like this. We make it in a slanting way, like this. So now, how do we apply a rule in overturned stroke? So whenever we are making an overturned stroke, this part will remain thin. Why so? Because if you will notice, when you are making this part, this is going from down to up. This is going from down to up. So that's why this part will remain thin. But the second part will be thick. Why so? Because this part is going from down to up. When you have already made this part, afterwards you make another part which is going from up to down. So that's why this part will remain thick, but this part will be thin. Alright, so let me recapitulate for you. Thin stroke are the strokes which goes from down to up. Thick strokes are the strokes which goes from up to down. Underturned strokes are the strokes which are used for the letters like U and Y. And only this part remains thick because this part is going from up to down. Overturn is the opposite of underturned stroke. This part, only this part is thick of overturned stroke, because only this part goes from up to down. Let me give you example of overturned stroke. For example, letter M. In letter M, this part will be thick, because this part is going from up to down. So let's make this part thick. Afterwards, you will not make this part thick. Why so? Because this part is going from down to up. So we'll make only this one part thick because this part is going from up to down. And in this one also you will repeat the same thing because of the same formula. So this is how you make letter M in calligraphy. Now let's move to the next strokes. So the next stroke is ascending stroke. Also you can say it as ascending loop. We can also say it as ascending loop. So instead of stroke, you can say ascending loop. Okay. So how do we use ascending stroke? It is very commonly used in most of the letters. How? Let me tell you. So how do we make ascending stroke? We make a curve and we make a straight line. We make a curve and then we make a straight line. This is how we make a ascending stroke or ascending loop. Now how do we apply calligraphy rule in it? So whenever you are making this part will remain thin because this part is going from down to up. That's why this part will remain thin. But when you move further, this part, then another part is coming from up to down. From up to down. So that's why we will make this part thick. Let me tell you it one more time. Whenever you are making a ascending loop, you make only this part thick because only this part is coming from up to down. This part will remain thin because this part is not coming from up to down. This part is coming from down to up. That's why we'll remain it thin. So let me give example of ascending stroke. For example, letter H. In letter H, again you will apply the rule which we apply in ascending stroke. And then when you make this part, did you notice that this part will be thick because this part is coming from up to down again. So that's why only this part will be thick, not this part, because this part is coming from up to down. So that's why. Now let's move to the next stroke. So the next stroke is descending stroke. Also, descending stroke is the opposite of ascending stroke. And also the same thing you say in descending, that instead of descending stroke, you can also say descending loop. Alright, let's move further. So, how do we make a descending stroke? First, we make a straight line and then we make a curve. One more time. First, we make a straight line and then we make a curve. So, this is how we make our descending stroke. So, now how do we apply rule in it? So, when we are making the straight line is going from up to down. So, the letter which is going from up to down, that part will be thick. So, first we will make it thick and then we will fill it. But we will not make this part thick as it's going from down to up. That's why we will not make this part thick, because when you make this part, you start making a line which is going from down to up. So that's why only this part will be thick, rest of the part will be thin. Let's make an example of descending loop or descending stroke. So let's take example letter G. So this is how we make letter G. So now when you are making letter G, first you will make this part thick. Why? Because only this part is going from up to down. So you'll make this part thick but not this part. And this part will remain thin because those both are going from down to up. Then also afterwards, when you made the small c, then you will when you made a descending loop, you have to use the same formula which I told you to apply in a descending loop. So this is the example of descending loop. Now let's move further to other strokes. So now let's learn our second last stroke. So the second last stroke is compound stroke. That's compound stroke, and let me tell you that compound stroke is the combination of underturn and overturn stroke. You will get to know how is it. Let me tell you. So how do we make a compound stroke? So first we'll make an overturn and then we make an underturn. So that's why we say the mixture of overturn and underturn stroke. And one more thing, instead of compound stroke, you can also say it as compound curve. Alright. So this is how you make your compound stroke, and I have also told you the reason that why do we say it's the mixture of overturn and underturn. So now let's see how to apply rule in it. So first this line is going from up to down, so this line will remain thin. But now this part is going from up to down, so this part will be thick, this part will be thick, but again this then another part is going down to up. So in compound curve or compound stroke, only this part remains thick, because other than these both are going from down to up. Only this part is coming from up to down, that's why only this part will remain thick. Okay, so now let's move to our last stroke. So the last stroke is oval. The last stroke is oval. We don't say it's oval stroke, we just say it's oval. So let's see how to make it. So first, it is very simple. You have to make a normal oval. You have to make a normal oval, and then you have to just apply the rule. How you'll apply the rule? When you are making the oval, this part will be thick, because this part is going from up to down, and this part will remain thin, because this part is going from down to up. So the part which is going from down to up will remain thin, and the part which is going from up to down will remain thick. So that's how we make oval. And the same we use for circle, like we are making O or oval, we use same thing. So how, in which letter we can use this stroke? For example, we have letter Q. So here first we will apply the rule which we are applying in the oval, which we apply in oval. That rule we will apply here, and then we will also make this part thick. Why? Because when we are making half oval, at that time we are making a straight line which is going from up to down. So that's why that part will remain thick, and the rest of the parts will remain thin. So that's how we have learned the basics of calligraphy, and with these rules only you can simply write any letters. So now, for example, I write the letter J. J. In the letter J, we will make this part thick, because this part is going from up to down. This part will be thick. Now we have letter, suppose I give you letter K. So here see, first I have made a ascending loop, if you notice, right? And then I have made a half oval, and then rest of the things. So first you will apply the rule here. This line is going from up to down, and then the rule which you apply in half oval, and that's how you make your K. But you'll also make this line thick, as this line is also going from up to down. So that's how you can make any letters very easily in calligraphy. If you practice all these steps, the thin stroke, thick stroke, underturned stroke, overturned, ascending, descending, oval and compound curve. If you learn all these, you will definitely learn the calligraphy. And now let's meet in the next video. Till then, bye bye.